Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. In this episode, I welcome back Samantha Arth, Project Manager of Marketing and Events at Axon, to take a deeper dive into the realities and rage-worthy experiences around event registration. We vent a little and we solve a lot as we reveal actual out-of-the-box ideas and tactics you can try with your event planning. Oh, and B2B or B2C, free or paid? How about all of the above? This episode is your registration catharsis for event experience. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Event Experience podcast. Sitting across from me today, we're welcoming back one of our webinar panelists, which we love to do around here because it just gives us a little extra time to dig into some topics that we cover in Bizzabo's webinars. I'm very pleased to welcome the Project Manager of Marketing and Events at Axon. Our guest has spent the last 4 years helping scale the company's event program exponentially. Who doesn't want that in their resume? That's exactly right. The kind of career experience we're looking for. She owns the end-to-end event registration process from back-end setup all the way to on-site execution. And she's also, I'm happy to say, super passionate about finding innovative ways to utilize registration tools to meet the unique needs of every event. Could we ask for a better guest for today's day and age in events? I think not. I'm really happy to welcome Samantha Arth. Samantha, welcome to Event Experience.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. And especially if anyone hasn't yet watched the webinar, either live or on demand, you should go do that because we're going to extend this discussion. But we're going to go on to some questions here. One of these will be a familiar question because we asked it of you in the webinar, but then there's a couple newbies. So when you have to spend a whole day on the ground for an event, what shoes are you wearing to get yourself through?
I'm a huge fan of Hoka's. That is my go-to. But my teammate gave this piece of advice, when she joined the team that I thought was groundbreaking. I'd just never heard of it before. To wear a different shoe each day of the event. Because, on day 3, your feet might hurt just from being in the same shoe, even if it's the most comfortable shoe in the world. So if you have a couple different comfortable shoes, I've found that, switching them up every day, game changer.
That makes all the sense in the world. Oh my gosh. I've never gotten that. This is great too, because we've never gotten that answer on this podcast. So that's awesome. And hopefully all of us have at least 2 pairs of shoes that are comfortable for those all days. But once you nail those down, then yes, cycle them in. Just make sure they fit in your carry-on or checked baggage.
Exactly.
But
shout out to Hannah for that piece of advice.
Thank you, Hannah, for bringing that in by proxy of Samantha. That's awesome. Is there anything that you're listening to or watching or reading these days that you can't put down? And it doesn't have to be events or work related.
I am a total Broadway nerd. I love musicals, and I've really been back on the Hamilton train recently, these last few weeks. Cannot stop listening to it. And now I'm familiar enough with it where I can just put it on in the background. It's kind of like my work jam playlist. And now I'm subconsciously just learning more of the words from having it on in the background. So that's been my thing lately.
Do you have a favorite song?
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be hard.
So
I know there's a couple in there. I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to choose if I had to.
Oh my gosh. What's the name of that song? I was just listening to it.
I'm going to do this too, because I did this one time. I'm like, oh, I love this song. And someone's like, that's not the name of it. It's this. I was like, okay, well, I didn't go look it up. I'm sorry.
Now I want to just look really quick.
Yes, she's going to find it. We're going to take this moment because it's important.
Oh, Yorktown.
I love
the
that
Battle
one
of
too.
Yorktown song. I love that
Battle
one.
of Yorktown, 1776.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. I think when Hamilton, when it came out on Disney Plus and I was able to watch it and then I just started listening to it all the time. And now I'm sharing this and y'all audience, we're going to keep this in because some of you may relate to this. My husband, he cooks dinner for us. And so he will tap one of the utensils to kind of like tap the excess food off it. And he does it to the dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
He doesn't know he's doing that. I recognize the rhythm. And so I immediately am like, oh, it's Hamilton. And he's like, stop.
I love that. I agree. Even if he doesn't realize it, he's doing it subconsciously.
That's right. I just internally relish it a little bit. I don't say it out loud because
Yes.
if he hears me talk about Hamilton one more time, he's going to be like, I'm turning off the internet. Stop.
Oh, I love it.
But Samantha, I want to give our listeners and audience here an opportunity to know a little bit more about you than the 2 sentences I spent describing you. So, because you are way more than that, can you take us a little bit more into what is your day-to-day role experience at Axon? What do you do? What's your world like there?
Absolutely. So at Axon, my role has a couple different facets. I am the project manager for our bigger events that we throw. So customer events, and also internal events. Also with my role, I manage the operations and the tools and the processes that the entire events team uses. So, exactly something like Bizzabo, trying to find the best tools and create the handbooks for our team and how to use the best tools and really work with these vendors to make sure that our team is using them to the best of our ability.
Wow. You're kind of like the index, the Wikipedia then for your team for like, here's how we use all these tools together to be successful. Wow.
Yep, exactly.
I'm super impressed with that because for anyone who's not worked in marketing or operations side of marketing, that can be a big, that's a lot of knowledge to carry and make sure people have. But as I mentioned, we're really excited to have you back. We do these kind of webinar 2.0 interviews with some of our panelists when they can come back with us because, in a webinar, we always have a limited amount of time. People have to get back to their day. We totally get it. Whereas in a podcast, we get to play around a little bit more and we get to have some more, we're in your earbuds right now. You're listening to this, watching this, and you're like, we got more time here. So I'm really excited that you are back to talk about every event prof's favorite topic, favorite metric, and favorite challenge. And I'm being completely sarcastic when I say that, event registration. We want this opportunity to dig more into this with you. We're excited about that. Let's start now with how we started in the webinar. I want to hear your venting. I want to hear your vents, your complaints. Let's let loose here. What are your frustrations about event registration today that you are probably going to be very understandable and relatable by our audience? Let loose. What are we venting about with registration today?
Oh, yeah. So there's 3 main things that we need to vent about here. A couple of them we touched on a little bit in the webinar, but just to expound further, I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with. The last minute registrations, those are always difficult. You want to have certain deadlines or, certain metrics that you want to meet for different parts of the planning process. Of course, there's always the stragglers, and even worse is when you sell out or you run out of venue space. And then everyone comes out of the woodworks a week before the event. What? It's sold out? What do you mean? So that's definitely one of them that we always deal with. And also just the biggest thing for our team that we're really just trying to nail down and get into a place where we can scale is the registration management. So talking to people when they reach out to us, asking questions about the event, asking questions about their registration. They want certain changes. They have questions about, if they should attend or shouldn't. And that's such a key, important aspect of the event because this is our time to give the attendee a really personalized, good experience. Yeah. And it's a little bit harder to automate and scale. And we want to be able to look at each person's inquiries in a thoughtful way. And that takes a lot of time. So that's always something that we struggle with a little bit, especially as the event approaches and gets closer and closer. And the last venting note is, we love everyone that wants to register for our event, and we love getting all of the amazing registrations. And everyone is so busy. We can't expect everybody to be super, super meticulous. But we also end up with some registrations that, have wrong email addresses, or, if one teammate is registering for a group of people, they use the same email address or similar job, just more like placeholder information that ends up with not as clean of reporting as we would like, and not as much information as we'd like.
I love the way you answered this question too, because it's such a great demonstration of like all the things that event planners do that people may not realize. you're absolutely right. You're humans. Humans are registering for these events. You might have a typo in your email. And guess what? If you do that, you're not going to be getting any confirmations. You're not going to get any updates. And you're going to wonder, what the heck? You guys aren't sending me anything. It's like, well, let's fix this. And then, who hasn't run into that too? I think we know we have to register a group. And then, I'll just do everybody. No, you've got to do everybody else's emails. And I think there are so many great ways that you just vented in the way that, event professionals out there are like, yep, that's my day to day. That's what I deal with. If any of you out there listening want to play that clip back for your superiors and be like, this is what I spend my time on, you are welcome to. Please use these as receipts. And of course, I know there's so many other ways, and I appreciate you keeping it to 3. There's other ways that, people can vent about the registration experience these days and what a challenge it is. Yet it's something that we care about. It's a major way we use and need to be able to tell if an event is successful or not. In looking at venting, those are pain points. Then the next part is, well, how do we ease that pain? And so that takes me to my next question for you. Anything's easier to tackle when you have a little help, maybe a little more than a little help. During the webinar, you mentioned that Bizzabo often makes registration challenges easier for you and your team, which is music to our ears. Obviously, this is a Bizzabo podcast, but hopefully everybody out there's got tech. And if you don't, find it, right? And we're hopefully going to help you find it with this podcast. But could you tell us a little bit more? What is like your favorite feature or tactic that works for your team when it comes to executing event registration with the Bizzabo platform? Absolutely. And we love Bizzabo. There are so many components of Bizzabo that make our lives easier. The couple main things that come to mind are the customization of Bizzabo. Really, it's not a tool that you just kind of fill out the different parts of the template and launch it. The components are very, very customizable, and they can really work for so many different types of events. And even more important is our CSM, the collaboration with our CSM. And the team is just so amazing to work with. And what we're able to do in our sessions is talk about an event. Mm-hmm. And then we're able to kind of say, this is kind of how we're thinking about it. And this is how we were kind of thinking about using the tool. And we have that collaboration to, get some feedback from them of, oh yeah, you are thinking about that differently, or, maybe think about this in a different way. And it allows us to really have that custom approach to each event, but also, have some help along the way. We love hearing that too. Who doesn't want that too, right? It's always, as we mentioned, help is always helpful. But to know that there's some collaborators there on the outside that are like, hey, even just to bounce ideas off of, I think that's super important too. And that whole point of this podcast is to give people ideas as well. Like, what are some things you're not thinking of? Also, the fact you brought up that CSM tie-in, or that, the way that the tool integrates with other super crucial tools that your team uses to be successful. And I think doesn't that tie in a bit? I want to ask you this too, just kind of a pivot question. What other teams does your team work with, internally? I mean, I would imagine that those integrations are super key when you're working with some of your sister teams in the company to make sure you bring these things off. Like, what are some of those other teams? Yeah, absolutely. Great point, and something I'm glad that we're able to talk about a little bit more. We collaborate with a lot of different teams, largely for, our customer facing events. Yeah. We work very closely with the sales team, and our own, CSM team on our side, when we're, using these events to really connect with customers, and also our digital team and, the Salesforce team, just to make sure that we're getting that reporting and we're able to measure pipeline and just get an idea and have that reporting of who's attending our events, who's registering, and Bizzabo's connection to Salesforce, the automated connection, has been a game changer and has saved our team, many hours of time. Just a wild fact out there for all of you who might be listening to this. Maybe you're new to your event professional career, but you got to make sure that platform you're using is talking to your customer management system, to whether if that's Salesforce or whatever you're using. The two must talk together. They need to hold hands. They need to be joined at the hip, or whatever other analogy we want to, or euphemism we want to use. And super important, like you said, events don't happen in a microcosm, and they don't happen just because of one team, and they don't just impact one team. Obviously, you're doing these events for a reason, to bring about success for your brand, but also for the attendees. I appreciate you highlighting how, it's not just your team doing this, that you have to be partnered up with these other teams too. And great to have a platform that lets you help to do that, right? To kind of make those connections automatically that you don't have to go manually do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You just mentioned something too, customizable registration flows. I have a feeling, I think we can all think of like, yes, I can customize, maybe I've got a couple of tiers of tickets types and stuff like that. But we kind of got the sense in the webinar, I'm getting the sense today that there might be a little bit more of a better, maybe more intricate example that you could offer. So I want to give you opportunity. Is there like a good example you have of man, we customized the registration flows for this event and did it to the hilt? What do you have?
Oh, yes. I have just the example for this. One of the biggest event programs that we put on every year is a tour type of event program where, it's set up as one event in Bizzabo, but it is a year-round tour where we have one-day events that are just kind of happen in multiple days and cities throughout the year. It's a very, very fun program, but also, the setup is kind of a beast. There's hundreds of stops in this tour. This is a huge example where these customizable registration flows have been life-changing.
Oh my God.
So how we set that event up is we have different ticket types for each, stop of the tour. And then we actually have a separate registration flow for every US state. So, we have, in each registration flow for a certain state, we have exactly, those stops and the tour dates for that are happening in that state. And so that provides a super, super custom registration experience. The attendees, when they're going to register for the event, they don't have to scroll through hundreds of stops. We have set up kind of a drop down where they say, what state are you in? And then it'll pull up the registration flow for that state. And it makes it much easier to, select 5 different options rather than hundreds. So that's definitely one that is a huge priority for us and also gets us, able to flex our Bizzabo skills.
I would say, there's 50 states. So I'm just like, that's a lot of states. That's a lot of registration workflows and to make it custom each one. But it drives back to what you were saying. It's like, but instead of presenting this super long scroll list that someone's got to be like, okay, but instead of like, okay, just tell us what state you're in. And then you're going to get something that's very specific to you and makes the most sense to you and get yourself to this event, which wow. That was not what I was expecting. It was more than I was expecting. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. There's a lot of little things like that, or not little, that's kind of a big thing, that are a little more custom than just, a very basic event. But how we think of it is, not doing more work. It's actually saving us work in the long run, doing the work up front so that the experience is as easy as possible for the customers. We get less questions about it and ultimately saves us all down the line.
We'll be right back with more event experience after the break. From backstage to the spotlight, the Event Experience podcast by Bizzabo gives you a front row seat to the event industry's most captivating stories. Want to get more out of each episode? Visit bizzabo.com/podcast. That's bizzabo.com/podcast for show notes, transcripts, links, and resources mentioned in each episode and more. The Event Experience podcast by Bizzabo, where events become unforgettable experiences. We're back with Samantha Arth, who's about to share key differences in registrations for B2B, B2C, free, paid, and all of the above. All right. I'd be really curious to poll all the audience for this podcast to find out which kind of events they tend to work on. And I'm speaking specifically about like B2B, so business to business, or B2C, business to customer. We probably have some event professionals listening who really gravitate toward one or the other, and maybe not both. Similarly, we might have other event professionals who are audience of this podcast who only work on free events. No payment needed, registration. There's not even freemium where it's like, oh, upgrade or, get a different tier, versus others who are like, nope, paid all the way. We always do paid, conferences or, anything like that. You're a bit of a unicorn because you do all of the above. And so again, super excited to talk to you and really hash this out, because you bring this unique experience of someone who's like, no, I dabble in all of those things and have that experience. The differences between like what a B2B versus a B2C event planning experience is, free versus paid. And then of course, cross sections across that. It's a free B2C or it's a paid B2B or whatever. I want to give you some space here to share what are some key differences you think are crucial for event profs to know as you tackle these different types of experiences, B2B, B2C, free to paid. Unload on us. What are we talking about here as far as like what we need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're very correct. We have a wide range of different types of events, which is really fun and really also challenges us in a really cool way and gets us to practice and learn, what are those differences? How can we make each event most successful? And Axon is a little unique as well, because the company is vast majority, B2B. So, our customers are other companies. Mm-hmm. So how I like to think of it is kind of our internal events versus our customer facing events, because, we have a big company and our culture is a big, priority. And so we have a lot of company wide events that are, still thousands of people, almost as big as our customer events, but the strategy and the components that go into it are obviously way, way different. So just talk about a couple examples of the biggest type of events that we throw. We have our company kickoff event, which is 2,000 to 3,000 people come in and we all are together to collaborate. And that's a big effort and a really fun one that our events team throws. Yeah. And then also our biggest customer facing event is Axon Week. And that is, a paid event. And we also have many, smaller free kind of pop-up conferences around the globe. Wow. And what I would say is an easy way to sum up my overall thoughts on this is when you have a paid event, I find that you're really able to ask more of the attendee, and there's more at stake. They're more willing to provide a lot more information, because, they're paying for it. It's a bit of a bigger ask and more of a registration experience. Whereas on the free side and on our end, also the internal side, we find we get the most success by really prioritizing ease of registration. Because at that point, they're not putting money on the line. We're really wanting to bring them in and experience our company and our event. And we find that it's easiest to do that by really prioritizing ease.
I want to ask a kind of tangent question this too. So that makes sense too. And I'm kind of going to step into the shoes of someone who's going to register for either of these events, whether it's a paid event or the free event. I think something that event profs are probably wondering is that, okay, great. What if it's a new attendee? They're new to the paid or new to the free. And I appreciate you bringing up there's a little bit more investment or stake in it when I'm paying. So yes, there's an expectation you're going to want a little bit more from me because this is an investment for me to go. And then, the ease of registration is important for the free event. Either way, though, you got to convince that person to register. What are the differences that you try to approach with where you're doing that? You're trying to give the receipts almost to, or the here's why you should register at all and pay us either to go to the pay event or just register for the free event. Do you ever struggle, or do you feel like there's a difference there between like how you message that proof of concept to the registrant to say, we're going to convince you and compel you that you should be here paid or free?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that we're kind of always trying to think about and improve on. My initial thoughts on this, just from some example events that I'm thinking about, is paid events. We really try to nail home the core benefit and what they're going to get out of the event, and, provide justification letter templates for their management, so that they can have, they can get approval for the costs and things like that, and really more about like the education and the core things that they're going to take away from the event. Whereas we still want to push that very much for the free event, but sometimes, it's easier to immediately pull people in with more of the experience aspects.
Yeah.
The event experience is, of course, a priority for all, and the benefit and what people get out is always a priority. I'd say we lean more into what will you leave with for the paid events, and more, this is what you will get at the event for the free events, if that makes sense.
It does. Because I think, again, in the shoes or, of the person who's going to register for either. The paid one makes a ton of sense. I even just read in a Slack this morning in a group that I'm in where it's like they're going to a conference, it's a paid conference, and they talked about they struggled every year to even get, budget approval to be able to go to that conference. It's something that will not only help develop them as a professional, but can help, develop what they work on for that brand. But we all know the struggle, and event professionals know it too. You're fighting that battle to be like, hey, we're going to try to help you win the budget internally to be able to attend this, because you may not be paying your own way to go to this. But I would say, I would hazard to say, almost equally important to people is their time.
Yep.
We all need more of it. There's not a week that goes by that I wish I just had an extra 24 hours where nobody's slacking me and I could just hammer stuff out and catch up. It's not happening. So I've got to get used to that reality. But you're asking people for a free event, spend time with us. And so you are, like you just said, you're convincing them that we're going to make it worth your while. The experience will be worth the time investment you're making to spend with us. You're not paying for it, but you are kind of because of your time investment. And thank you for highlighting that. That's so key to think about. There's more than just actual monetary currency going on here when it comes to an attendee deciding to attend an event, right?
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you think is really key for, let's say there's another unicorn like yourself out there and they're like, oh God, Samantha, I'm having to do B2B and B2C, or I'm having to do free and paid. Help. Is there anything else that you think would be like, okay, keep this in mind. This will help you be successful. Just something that maybe you really rely on as your foundational, like, this is my approach and how I think about it. Parse it out in your brain.
I would say another huge component for us in the paid events is making sure that the payment process is as easy and clear as possible.
Yeah.
And what we find for our events is that we have a lot of folks that can't pay right now via credit card, but they want to pay later via credit card. And, another kind of custom way that we use Bizzabo is for instances like that, we kind of have like a side, event that we create just for credit card payments for individuals that wanted to pay via credit card and weren't able to do so at that time, but we give them that link, and then, so they're able to pay by invoice and also pay by credit card. So there's just like, depending on your audience and what you find that they're asking for, that was one for us. We've kind of found custom ways to provide that to them, even if it wasn't, an out of the box something that or the tool automatically does.
Yeah.
So that's something that we, again, going into the customization aspect, really not being afraid to think outside the box there and meet your customers where they are.
Gosh, I that is something too, and that probably something I would have automatically thought of, but it makes a ton of sense. Let's all think about our own household finances and stuff. Sometimes you're like, well, this money comes in at this point in the month. I'm so glad because then I pay that bill right away. Of course, an event person's going to be doing that, or an attendee is going to be doing that as well, because it's like maybe they're working with or their finance team, they've gotten the budget approval, but we all know when we work in businesses, there's budgets, and maybe you've got to spend money by a certain date. And if you don't, then it's gone, or, hey, you can't spend it until that date. it's a super familiar situation. And so I think that what a great way to think about that, to be like, look, we want to understand and accommodate someone who wants to attend, has the budget to attend. Maybe we need to finesse when they pay a little bit, which I would say too, that probably comes into play. You were talking about, when people are having to register late, maybe, but you've got a certain amount or capacity you can't go above. So just again, demonstrative of all the tight wire that ever, the high wire that ever all these event profs are walking. We're doing our best to make sure there's a balance and you have the best shot possible to be able to attend our event and register for it.
Yep, exactly. And another thing that comes to mind, just how we generally approach a paid event versus a free event is a paid event is really an opportunity to promote group registrations and offer those sort of discounts. And that's where we want to, pull people in and get as many people, through the door and registered for the event and offer those sort of discounts that really encourage that sort of registration. Whereas free events, we generally tend to, limit the registration to one ticket per order, because, we want to make sure that we're getting the most quality information. Already for a free event, we might not ask quite as many questions. So we want to make sure that the information we're getting is very personal and very individual. So that's just another example. Of course, it depends. There's going to be instances of, of both group and individual for free or paid. But in general, that's kind of how we approach it as well. Is, this is a free event. We want to really encourage everyone to register for themselves and get that information that way.
Makes a ton of sense. These are great tactics. Thank you so much, because I knew this was going to be kind of a chance to dig further into the gold mine of your brain, to get some more tactics that people can try. And, even as they think about the things you've talked about, it can pop off some other ideas too. It's like, ooh, and all of it, y'all, comes back to just, let's think about the attendee. What is the best way? And in this day and age of registration chaos and sadness and just trying to overcome that challenge, what are those ways that we can make sure we're giving ourselves the best shot to get those registration numbers and close those deals? Finally, easiest question of all, where can our listeners find and follow you online?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, Samantha Arth, and I'm also, on Instagram, but not super active there. I'd say mostly LinkedIn is where you can find me.
To help you skill up, Samantha's advice is about not settling for the status quo from event to event.
Never be afraid to ask why, and really don't be afraid to change how you think about things, and put yourself in the shoes of a customer. And if or whoever your audience is that you're trying to register for an event, and if registration is done a certain way and there's something in your mind that's like, wait, that doesn't make total sense to me. It might have made sense to your company 5 years ago, but never be afraid to ask, why did we do it that way? Or does that still make sense? We've just found with small changes of our team really thinking about things differently and asking the why, with these small shifts, we've really been able to, change the game a lot and really improve our processes.
Thanks again to Samantha Arth for joining us on Event Experience, and thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.